It's hard to believe, but the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, died under circumstances shrouded in mystery and controversy. For decades, the official story was simple. Elvis died of a heart attack brought on by drug abuse. But behind this narrative lies a complex story involving genetics, medical mistakes, and a misunderstood physiological event. Elvis's death on November 16, 1977, was initially reported as a straightforward heart failure. However, Dr. Lahr, who had extensive experience with similar cases, knew this explanation was oversimplified. He explained to me that when issues with the colon become severe, standard treatments fail. The nerves down there are sort of paralyzed, he said, describing how severe cases of colon problems can leave a person helpless. Surgery would have helped him. We can see this now with MRI, something not available back then. Dr. Lahr and Dr. Abel pointed out another crucial detail about Elvis's family history. Elvis's mother had health issues like ptosis and migraines, signs of a genetic condition called mitochondrial disease. This disease, passed down through the mother, can lead to severe health problems. Elvis's mother died young and gave birth to a stillborn twin, aligning with the symptoms of mitochondrial disease. While we couldn't confirm this without autopsy samples, the evidence was compelling. Dr. Lahr and I then turned our attention to a theory about Elvis's actual cause of death. We believed it was linked to something called the Valsalva maneuver, a physiological reaction that can be deadly. When the body feels pressure on major blood vessels, like when someone strains hard, the heart can suddenly stop. This can happen when the abdominal muscles compress the aorta, leading to arrhythmia and a sudden loss of heart function. Dr. Warlick, who examined Elvis's body at the autopsy, agreed this could have happened. He explained that a blocked artery could trigger this response, causing the heart to stop abruptly. All the evidence from the scene supports this, he said. However, he disagreed with the idea that Elvis suffocated after falling and landing face down in carpet. The Valsalva maneuver could also explain another alarming detail: Elvis's grand mal seizure. When the heart stops, blood pressure drops, potentially causing a seizure. Elvis fell and hit the carpet, which might have led to suffocation. While Dr. Warlick wasn't certain about this part, the evidence pointed strongly toward this sequence of events. If only Elvis had access to the right medical care earlier, particularly colon surgery, his life might have been different. Dr. Lahr emphasized that without surgery, his chronic colon problems would have continued to worsen, increasing the risk of such a fatal event. The official story about Elvis dying from a drug overdose has long been accepted by many, partly because it makes a more sensational story. However, Dr. Warlick firmly refuted this. "That's a better story for the media, but it's not true," he insisted. Elvis had physiological issues, largely genetic, that led to his death. Elvis's life had indeed been marred by drug use at times, and this led to unfair judgment. But the truth is that his health problems were complex and rooted in his genetics and medical history. As Elvis fans gathered at Graceland to pay their respects, a somber reminder of the man's life and legacy remained. The meditation garden where fans leave floral tributes stands as a testament to his enduring impact. The story of Elvis Presley's death doesn't end with the initial reports. Behind the scenes, investigations revealed a tangled web of events and claims that challenged the official narrative. One key figure in these investigations was Jim Kirk, a man connected to the National Enquirer, a tabloid known for its sensational stories. Jim Kirk claimed to have received a tip about Elvis's death from Ginger Alden, a woman close to Elvis. According to Kirk, Ginger called him around 1:30 p.m. on August 16, 1977, saying to keep a watch on the mansion. Shortly after, at around 2:30 p.m., she called again, her voice urgent: "Elvis is dead." The National Enquirer rushed to Memphis, beating the official announcement by hours. But the story took a darker turn when Kirk revealed a dispute over money. The Enquirer initially offered Ginger a huge sum for an exclusive interview, but reduced it when she failed to honor an exclusivity agreement. This created tension and raised questions about the reliability of her claim. Adding to the mystery was the story of David Stanley, a friend of Elvis's who was supposed to be on duty that day. Jim Kirk provided details that cast doubt on David's alibi. David claimed he was with a date, drinking and doing drugs, and left Graceland around 4:15 a.m. However, the motel manager recalled that David arrived there before 4:30 a.m., contradicting his story. David's version changed further when he told Dr. Nick and Edna his side of the events. He admitted to having a guest, drinking, taking pills, and having sex, but claimed he left around 4:15 a.m. only to find out about Elvis's death later. However, the night manager at the Howard Johnson Motel confirmed David arrived there before 4:30 a.m., supporting the earlier arrival time. David's conflicting stories and the evidence against his alibi created suspicion. When he finally told Rick Stanley, Elvis's brother, about Elvis's death, he seemed distraught, saying, "I killed him, I killed him." This statement, relayed to Vernon Presley, added another layer of intrigue to the already complex situation. These details paint a picture far more complicated than the simple heart failure narrative. They suggest a combination of medical issues, family secrets, and possible external pressures that contributed to Elvis's tragic end. While the exact truth may never be fully known, the investigations into Elvis's final hours continue to uncover layers of a story that has captivated the world for decades. After learning about the investigation into Elvis Presley's death, it became clear to me that the stories I had heard about a fatal karate blow were just rumors with no basis in reality. David, who claimed to have been in the bedroom suite where Elvis died, couldn't be verified by anyone at Graceland as being there at the time. As the years went by, the debate over what really caused Elvis's death faded into the background. Most fans didn't care about the details of his death, they just loved his music and legacy. Elvis's friends and family started sharing their memories of him. They wrote books about their time with him, moving past the how of his death to cherish the time they had with him. The public's interest shifted too, and soon the events surrounding Elvis's death were old news. By summer 1979, it seemed like everyone had accepted that and was focusing on other things. But then, something unexpected happened. On June 26, 1979, Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, died at Baptist Memorial Hospital. His funeral was held in the living room and music room of Graceland, with his body laid to rest in the meditation garden. For those who knew Vernon well, it made sense that he would want to be buried near his son and wife, Gladys. He had been battling heart problems for years and had been at Graceland, where he felt at peace with his family. As executor of Elvis's estate, Vernon had worked alongside the National Bank of Commerce to manage Elvis's affairs after his death. Many expected Elvis's only child, Lisa Marie, to be named co-executor alongside the bank. Given Lisa Marie's young age at the time, this seemed like a logical arrangement. However, things took an unexpected turn when local newspapers started suggesting that Elvis's death might have been drug-related. This raised concerns about what would happen to Graceland, now worth over $500,000. The city of Memphis was considering buying it to turn it into a museum, hoping to make it self-sustaining through ticket sales and memorabilia sales. But with rumors of drug involvement in Elvis's death, the future of Graceland became uncertain. This uncertainty led to a legal battle. In August 1979, ABC News sued the medical examiner and the district attorney, demanding access to Elvis's autopsy report. They claimed it was a public record and sought to uncover more details about his death. This lawsuit came as a shock to me, as I had thought the debate over the cause of Elvis's death was over. The lawsuit forced me to testify and hand over documents related to Elvis's death. ABC wanted more than just the letter from Dr. Thomas Chesney, which stated Elvis died of a heart attack. They were looking for anything that could suggest otherwise. The lawsuit allowed ABC to question Dr. Jerry Francisco, the pathologist, and others involved in the autopsy. However, they were only allowed to discuss the events without revealing any technical details of the autopsy. This situation reminded me of my training as a diagnostician in medical school. Diagnosticians observe patients closely, looking for subtle signs that can reveal a lot about a person's health. It's about piecing together small clues, much like solving a mystery. I often found myself observing people and making educated guesses about their health based on their behavior and appearance. One day, a group of men burst into my office, demanding to speak with me immediately. They were part of ABC's team, and their aggressive entrance left no room for debate. They wanted answers, and they weren't going to wait. Barbara, my receptionist, tried to intervene, recalling the man's confident assurance that there would be no surprises if we sat down to talk. It was clear they were looking for a straightforward narrative, one that would support their narrative about Elvis's death. As a diagnostician, I understood the importance of observing and interpreting behavior. In that moment, I saw the determination in those men, their refusal to accept anything less than the truth, no matter how complex it might be. Just like in medicine, where every detail matters, the quest to understand Elvis's death was about finding the full picture, even if it meant digging deeper than anyone wanted. Dr. Nick found himself in a tough spot. He wanted to keep his office calm so doctors could focus on their patients. So he brought a crew from a big TV show into his small office. It was like squeezing into a closet designed for one person. The team included a producer with a thick mustache, 2 technicians, and a young reporter from ABC. Dr. Nick had heard about them from a lawsuit they filed against him related to talking to the police about Elvis Presley. Dr. Nick wasn't happy about this. He had avoided these people for weeks. He felt like they were like salesmen looking for an easy target. They were waiting outside his office, hoping he'd let them in. He could have called the police to make them leave, but he chose not to. The audio tech quickly set up his equipment, and the cameraman was ready to start filming. The reporter, looking thin and eager, sat down across from Dr. Nick. No one explained why they were there. The reporter started by asking Dr. Nick if he could call him Dr. Nick. Dr. Nick thought this was funny since the reporter seemed very confident. The reporter then asked how Dr. Nick and Elvis became friends. Dr. Nick felt outnumbered and a bit like an animal in a trap. The first question was about when Elvis started having drug problems. Dr. Nick refused to answer, saying it was private. The reporters watched him closely, treating each answer like a point in their game. When asked if he ever told Elvis not to take drugs, Dr. Nick felt insulted. He didn't see why they thought he had the right to judge Elvis. He firmly said he didn't know and didn't think the reporter had the right to ask. The reporter then shifted to talking nicely, asking about their relationship. This was fair, and Dr. Nick explained. Suddenly, the reporter asked about Dr. Nick's finances. Dr. Nick was confused. He said he wasn't financially dependent on Elvis, but the reporter knew about some loans Dr. Nick had taken from Elvis for his home and other debts. Dr. Nick tried to explain it was a business deal, but the reporter pressed on. Then, the reporter pulled out a folder with documents. He said records showed Dr. Nick prescribed large amounts of medicine to Elvis in the last year of his life. Dr. Nick denied this, saying it wasn't true and that Elvis was prescribed less medicine then. The reporter revealed shocking numbers, over 5,000 prescriptions for narcotics and amphetamines in just a few months. Dr. Nick firmly denied these claims. He said he didn't remember writing prescriptions for such large amounts, especially for strong painkillers like Dilaudid on Elvis's death day. The reporter argued that other pain medicines could have been used instead. Dr. Nick explained that Dilaudid is for severe pain and could be taken every few hours. He clarified he chose not to prescribe the largest dose. Despite his denials, the reporter kept pushing, asking about the 600 pills given to Elvis the day before he died. Dr. Nick strongly denied this, saying it was false. He wanted to end the interview, stating he had work to do and the interview was over. Before leaving, the reporter asked if Dr. Nick had any regrets. Dr. Nick said no regrets about being Elvis's doctor, but he sure had regrets about talking to this team from the TV show. This interview marked Dr. Nick's first big media challenge. It taught him a lot about dealing with tough questions and the media's hunger for stories. From then on, he knew he would face more public scrutiny, but he was ready. This experience was his first step into becoming a public figure, even if it was not by choice. Shortly after, two men in suits came to see Dr. Nick at the medical group. They didn't wait in line or show respect for his time. They wanted to talk to him right away. This showed how the media could change someone's life, making them a public figure whether they wanted to be or not.